this past week, the wrestling world was shocked when it learnt news that Andy Boy Simmonz, one of IPW UK's brightest stars, had decided to call it a day on his 6+ year career. Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with the man himself as we dedicate this show to the career of Andy Boy Simmonz.
I'm here today at the home of IPW UK headliner Andy Boy Simmonz, and as you may or may not have heard, just a couple of weeks ago in Italy, Andy Boy Simmonz broke his ankle. I'd like to start by thanking you for joining us here today and by allowing us into your home, Andy Boy. And I'd like to ask you just how the injury came about.
As you said, Rob, I was on a tour of Italy. It was the first night. I tell you, it was bound to be one of the most fun 3 days of my life. We flew in Thursday, and we wrestled. We flew in Thursday morning, and then met up with some of the guys that were on tour. Everyone was getting along really well, so we spent that whole day just chilling out, messing about. We went to the gym, went to a pool, and then Friday night came. We were sort of who was wrestling who, and I was on with Stevie Douglas, who the IPW fans will know, and I've never wrestled Stevie before in a singles. And he actually beat me that night. But then we went on to do a rumble later on, like a 12-man elimination rumble, and I lifted the guy up to give him a atomic drop. And as he came down, with the full force that I lifted him up with, I lifted him up pretty high, got him good, gonna bring him right down on my knee. The guy just literally came down full force on my knee, and my leg buckled, and I heard it snap. I just heard it snap. It was the most horrible sound I've ever heard in my life. I rolled out the ring, I was like, he's broke my ankle, he's broke my ankle, he's broke my ankle. And then because of the officials there, they didn't speak English. And the guy thought, it was all part of the show. So he was, he just ignored me, and I'm calling him over. I'm like, God, this is real. I've tried to explain to him, and he threw the X up, as they all copy the WWE. And then the paramedics started coming over, but they're walking. I find this with the Italians, they just walk so slowly, they don't sort of realise an urgency in anything. And they're walking over, and I'm swearing as you'd expect because of my leg. It wasn't in a good way at all. And eventually they got to me, they took me to the hospital, I was x-rayed. At first I didn't think it was a break, but I knew it was a break, but luckily there was one person there who spoke English and Italian fluently. And the doctors had said they didn't think it was a break because the pain had calmed, the pain had gone. And had the x-rays, they told me it was broken, they put it in a plaster, and I flew home the following day, and I was gutted because everyone was getting on so well, we were having a good time, we were eating well, which is certainly different when you go on tour. Everything was paid for, we're having such a good time with everyone, having a good laugh, and then I have to fly home, the second day and miss the rest of the tour, and I was gutted really. Okay,
and when you got home, I take it you sought further medical attention?
Yeah, the first thing I immediately did was I got my mother to drive me down to the hospital, local hospital, and they said come back the following day for the fracture clinic. They x-rayed me. I was sat around for a few hours, which is, you expect it, people in and out with broken legs and broken arms, broken everything. And I thought I was going to go and have surgery that day because they had told me I would definitely need to have my ankle reconstructed. It was that bad as it turned out. And Monday came and went, no operation. Tuesday came and went, no operation. So I'm literally just sat in my hospital bed, just watching telly and DVDs and not really doing anything constructive. But I couldn't because I was in so much pain. And then Wednesday finally came, they pieced me back together. I was in theatre about an hour, I think. So, the operation wasn't so bad, but the recovery, they said 6 weeks in a plaster, a further 6 weeks till I can be back in the ring. So it's about 3 months in total.
Hello Andy, just a few memories I have of you, and all the memories were good times. You were a good laugh, nice to be around with, and it's a shame to hear what's happened here, but I've always wanted a match with you, Andy Boy Simmonz versus Dale the Kid Ritchie, but yeah, take care.
Well Andy, we've heard in IPW UK that you could be out for up to 6 months.
Well, that's something I didn't really want to discuss, to be honest, but yes, the doctor said a minimum of 3 months, but he said you're looking at more likely 6 months to a year. So, right now I'm not really too sure where my head's at. If I'm, I don't like to say this, but 6 months to a year out of wrestling, wrestling's my life. It's my full-time income. I don't really know whether I'm even, whether I even want to go back at all right now. It's like I look at my leg and I look at all the things I've already done in this past 6 years of wrestling. I don't know whether there's anything, whether I'm happy to end it now, and is it really worth it? Go back and with a broken ankle, with 2 screws in my ankle, and do I really want to have to go through that again? Years down the line. It's not really something I really want to think about right now, but I want to go back.
Over your 6+ year career, you must have many highlights. Can you just tell us some personal highlights?
Well, Rob, I've got loads of highlights. Too many to mention. I just love being part of the wrestling industry. When I started training 6.5 years ago down at the FWA Academy in Portsmouth, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd ever wrestle abroad. Through wrestling, I've got to wrestle in Italy half a dozen times. I've got to wrestle in France half a dozen times. I've been to Germany to wrestle. I've been all over Europe, countries that I would never have, excuse me, I'd have never have seen if it wasn't for wrestling. I'm so thankful for that. And when I was about 10, I went to go watch a WWF show at Wembley Arena. And when I was 10 years old, did I ever think, 10 years later, would I be wrestling at Wembley Arena for the WWE? You never think you're going to do that. It's always that dream, but it's so far out of reach, you never think you're going to capture that dream. But I've been lucky enough to, sure, I was just a job guy and lasted 5 minutes, but it was just all part of the experience of wrestling, and I'd miss wrestling terribly. The friends you make in this business, it's a shame reality, it's a sad reality that most of the people that you think are friends in this business, they're not really friends, they're more acquaintances. And the guys who haven't come to visit me, guys like Eamon O'Neill, who's my regular tag team partner in the British scene, he's texted me I think once in the last 3 weeks. It's just a sad reality of wrestling. But then I've got my other friends at the other end of the spectrum. IPW referee Andy Quildan's come to see me. Luke Summers has come to see me, my best buddy in the world. Aviv Mayan, he's come to see me about 3 or 4 times just to chill out and make those days go that little bit quicker. And sadly, the reality of this excuse me. Sadly, the reality of this business is that you have very few friends, mainly acquaintances, and that's the only down thing I can say on this business.
Loud and proud, let them hear you, make them feel you, let them know you're here. Can't face the day and the tension is brand. Don't hide away, then they know that they're won. Face to face, standing tall, watch them wither, then they're gone. Are you strong? Sing on, loud and proud. Let them hear you, make them feel you, let them know you're coming. Loud and proud, don't you take no more to say every roar and let them know you're here. Standing tall, never mind who you're facing. Beat them all, let your legend be loved. Times are hard and the temperature's rising, but you're strong and they'll run. So run loud and proud, let them hear you, make them feel you, let them know you're coming. Loud and proud, don't you take them on to say, and roar and let them know
You've been out for a good few weeks now, Andy Boy. How are you coping?
Well, it's been lonely, I'll be honest, Rob. You know, it's been good to have you round. You know, as I say, like, I think 3 or 4 people come to visit me. You know, I feel horrible. I feel down in the dumps and horrible. You know, I'm a guy that goes to the gym 6 times a week. I haven't been able to go once in nearly a month. You know, I haven't shaved in a week. You know, I'm just feeling down and terrible and frustrated. Everything's breaking on me. You know, the television's broken today. You know, I've just got nothing to do and just so angry. You know, I just want to sort of get back on. I am on the road to recovery, but I just want to be on my own 2 feet again without these.
Tell us about some of your highlights with IPW.
Well, highlight was just being brought in to start with. You know, for those of you who don't know, I used to wrestle for the Frontier Wrestling Alliance, which travel around England doing shows as a wrestling butler, who was a butler to the Duke of Danger, who used to be a good friend of mine, and he's just come into IPW now, actually. And, you know, IPW was the first place for me to sort of come out of that butler role, take off that waistcoat and bow tie, and be me, you know, be the wrestler. I wasn't restrained to doing comedy matches and comedy wrestling that everyone wanted to see. And everything was going well, I was popular, you know, everything was just going good. I was winning matches, everything. And then I wrestled James Ty, I think, for the #1 contendership of the IPW title. And the crowd, they were just sat there in silence. They seemed to be bored senseless, you know, which was frustrating for both myself and James, because we put on a hell of a performance that night, but for whatever reason, nobody seemed to be interested. And then the following month, I tagged with Jody Fleisch and Leroy Kincaid, and that was Leroy's first night in the territory. And we wrestled Johnny Storm, Dave Morales, I want to say, and Martin Stone. And again, there was just audience apathy. Everyone just didn't enjoy my work. I was, you know, the IPW promoter, Dan Edler, he always reads up on these reviews on the internet. He messaged me and say, Andy, you're doing something wrong. People just aren't enjoying your stuff. And then finally I got in to have my match with Martin Stone, and they were booing me and they were cheering Martin, and they were going mad for Martin, just booing me. I just had enough, and I just flipped. And I just told the fans what I thought of them. You know, of course I ended up slapping him around the face, which I think may have been a bit too far. But he was just rude, you know, he put his middle finger up at me, and, you know, you just don't do that to somebody in the street. What makes you think you can do that to me as a professional? You know, you're watching me wrestle, you're not here to insult me and be rude to me. But, you know, that's a different story. I just flipped, and ever since then, you know, it's just spiraled out of control. Those fans, they just hate me. They'd rather spit on me than, you know, than shake my hand sometimes.
Andy Boy Simmonz may have never got on with him very well backstage sometimes, you know. Got enough respect for the guy though, do you know what I mean? He's one tough cookie, he's gone through a lot, and it's a shame to see him actually go and, you know, retire. If that's what he's going to do, that's best of luck to him in the future, but I hope that he does stay, and best of luck from my heart, mate. Yeah, respect.
Andy, just a quick message from me. I'm really sorry about your ankle, but I came back from injury when I broke my arm all them years ago, and you're a pioneer of British wrestling, my friend, and I'm very sorry you've come to the decision. So please don't retire, but if you make that decision, I understand. Good luck, mate.
Let's get away from the fans and let's talk about some in-ring moments in IPW.
You want some of my highlights?
Yeah.
Wow, where to start? You know, IPW has just been such a great promotion to work for. They're really one of the best in England. Got the best locker room. It's a really nice group of guys. You know, just being there is a highlight. You know, everyone gets along. It's a real sort of tight family. You know, everyone's trying to build IPW to be something, you know, the next step bigger. You know, to move from Orpington Hall, which they've now done, and, you know, hopefully to spread around the London area. Hopefully, maybe, you know, 5-10 years down the line, IPW will be the biggest promotion in England. You know, just that is a highlight in itself, just to be a part of IPW. In-ring highlights, where does it begin? You know, one of my favourite wrestlers as a kid was the British Bulldog. You know, he was the man. You know, I was at SummerSlam '92 at Wembley Stadium when he beat Bret Hart. To tag with his son, you know, was a hell of a, you know, that made me quite proud, you know, to do that. Of course, till he turned against me. Beating one of the top wrestlers in England, Johnny Storm, in January 2006, you know, before the fans turned against him.
Well, literally, as I don't have any access to the internet, I've just found out that Andy Boy Simmonz is retiring, which is, well, quite really unexpected. I used to have quite a laugh backstage and stuff with Andy. Didn't see eye to eye with him. at the start when I first met him. Didn't particularly like him. I don't really know what to say, Andy. I think it's too early to hang the boots up, personally. Try and fight through it, try and do what you can do. And just, I don't know, man, just, I would say don't quit, but if you have to, then fair enough. But apart from that, man, stay safe, keep healthy, and I'll speak to you soon. Take it easy.
My tag team partner tonight, I've known for over 6 years of my life. My tag team partner tonight is my best friend, Aviv Mayan. Loud and proud, let them hear you, make them feel you, let them know you're here.
And here he comes, the turncoat himself.
Making their way to the ring, the team of Andy Boy Simmonz and his tag team partner from Newport, South Wales, Aviv Mayan.
Recently you formed a tag team with Aviv Mayan, a man you proclaim to be your best friend in this business. Can you just tell us a bit about how that came about?
Oh, Aviv Mayan, you know, I cannot fault the guy. You know, I remember the first day he came into the FWA Academy at Portsmouth, and we just clicked, you know, we were good friends right from the start. You know, I showed him how to wrestle, I showed him, you know, everything he needed to know. And when he came into IPW, he was popular at first, because I think it was new, you know, he was quite new to the wrestling then, and, you know, before long, the fans, he was in the same situation that I was, which is so frustrating. You know, you're going out there, you're trying to get the fan support, but they just reject you, and, you know, they just tell you, you know, they're not interested. So I spoke to him, you know, I told him that I could get him to the right path, and, you know, we tagged a couple of times. You know, we didn't win our first only tag match that we had with Luke and Spud, but we then did an 8-man, which I don't think we won that either. But, you know, we're doing quite well, and, you know, I think now, for the past 6 months I've been with Aviv, I think now he can stand on his own 2 feet, and, you know, if I was to jack in the wrestling, you know, I think he'd be okay, and he'd do well for himself. He's a hell of a wrestler.
We've spoken about your partnership with Aviv Mayan. Now let's talk about one of my personal Andy Boy Simmonz highlights as far as in-ring moments go, the Battle Royale.
Well, Rob, you know, there are only so many people that can enter number 1 and come out at the end, you know. What a battle with endurance that was, you know. I had to go through 29 other guys. You know, I've been there for about 45, 50 minutes. You know, that's the longest I've ever wrestled. And it's not something I do every day either. You know, the amount of hell of a wrestlers that were in that match. Johnny Storm, Jack Storm, Dave Morales, the Untouchables, Pac was in there. Top Gun Talwar, the guy who I'd wrestled, you know, I'd wrestled earlier in the day as well. And, you know, I was absolutely exhausted by the end of that. But, you know, I won it. I now have, well, I would have any match I now want in IPW. You know, if I did want it, I could take a heavyweight championship match, I could take a tag team match, I could do whatever I want. I could wrestle Donna, you know what I mean, that'd be a personal favourite. But there it is, you know, that's where I am right now. That's pretty much as far as I got in my career. In IPW, that was the last thing of note that I really did before I broke my ankle, was win that battle royal.
And as a result of losing to Top Gun Talwar earlier on this evening, Andy Boy Simmonz, if he has any chance of winning this win, getting a match of his choice, he's going to have to go through 25 other men. It's a simulation. Some time. All the relationship that Duke and Danger and Andy Boy Simmonz had, they were tag team champions of the FWA. Andy Boy Simmonz was the Duke of Danger's partner, and he's not happy to see the Duke here in IPW having seen it the most.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Duke of Danger and Andy Boy Simmonz are working as a team, it seems, they just attacked actually reached. suplex. Simmonz lets him drop, kicks to the midsection. And they're working in tandem like they've never been away. Andy Boy Simmonz and Duke of Danger are back. Hampton Court is back here in IPWUK, and Ashley Reed could be going for a ride. He manages to hold on. Look at the strength displayed by Andy Boy Simmonz.
Well. Looks like Hampton Court's back together again. However, I don't like a ring attire, Simmonz. When you're quite ready, I feel a change of costumes in order.
Andy Boy Simmonz.
Go back and get changed. Of course it does.
I knew you couldn't trust Andy Boy Simmonz, and there was I thinking that someone was finally here to talk some sense into Andy Boy Simmonz. You were going to see the real Simmonz come out, but it turns out the real Simmonz is a turncoat which we've seen these last few months. This guy's a jerk. Powerbomb on Scorpio Sky. There's a simulation that tombstone pole driver on Max Voltage. Andy Boy Simmonz is dominant so far. And Scorpio Sky's eliminated. And here comes JC. There goes JC. I think that's 3 eliminations under the belt of Andy Boy Simmonz. Look at some of the talent in that ring. Got Andy Boy Simmonz still in the ring. The man who drew #1. It's a wonder kid Johnny Storm, superstar Tony Sefton, Leroy Kincaid. All these men capable of winning this thing. And Jeff Garrett could be about to be eliminated. Simmonz Johnny Storm and Andy Boy Simmonz joined Edler has eliminated Tawa, who I guess would have been the favourite to win this thing. And now we're down to the final 4. Unfortunately, we've got to concentrate on action inside the ring. Seth Patar on the outside. But it's down to Andy Boy Simmonz, James High, Johnny Storm and Leroy Kincaid. Simmonz left out time. There's Kincaid with a spear. Leroy Kincaid with a spear and Storm with a super kick. Now all 4 men are down. One of these 4 men will receive a match of their choice here in IPWUK. They have 1 year to catch that match in. The stakes are so high in this one. It's gonna be Kincaid, it's gonna be Storm, it's gonna be Ty, or it's gonna be Simmonz. Who will receive the royal reward of Simmonz and Ty nailing each other? A rivalry which will never die as Ty knocks out. What a beautiful snapping Hurricane Rana from James Ty. As Ty now all over Andy Boy Simmonz, but Simmonz cuts him off. He went for the wheelbarrow bulldog, but Ty turned it into a German suplex. Titanic on Andy Boy Simmonz, and now can James Ty eliminate Andy Boy? He tossed him over the top rope. Simmonz hangs on. Triple jump Hurricane Rana from Storm, and Johnny Storm eliminates James Ty. And then there were 3. concept of being helped to the back. Hopefully he will live to fight another day. He's been driven headfirst on concrete. And now all we have left is Andy Boy Simmonz, Johnny Storm and Leroy Kincaid. Leroy Kincaid was my pick to win this thing early on. But one cannot discount the Wonder Kid. Or for that matter, Andy Boy Simmonz. But it seems like Simmonz and Storm, they've almost united here. What a hypocrite Andy Boy Simmonz is. It's the fact that these fans cheered Johnny Storm above him that made him turn like this in the first place, that made him turn into this paranoid freak. And now look at him teaming with him. As there you see Storm and Simmonz, they have Leroy Kincaid in precarious position. It's a double superplex. Kincaid was nailed. Now all three men are down. How much does it take out of Simmonz and Storm? Bearing in mind, Simmonz has been in this thing since the beginning. He's been in the ring for over 45 minutes now. Between Simmonz and Storm, how nice, how cozy. As Kincaid ducks around clothesline, double clothesline from Leroy. And there's a meeting of the minds between Simmonz and Storm as Kincaid is all over Johnny Storm. He presses him above his head and throws him down onto Andy Boy Simmonz, and now can Kincaid eliminate one of these two men or both of them? He comes in, oh, clothesline, Storm over the top rope, he hangs on, kick to the midsection from Simmonz, rolling net breaker on Kincaid connects, and just when it looked like the match was going into, Kincaid's out of it. Kincaid is effectively out of this matchup. Simmonz from behind! Andy Boy Simmonz has just double-crossed Johnny Storm. And Andy Boy Simmonz has gone from the very beginning, #1 in this contest against all the odds, and he's already wrestled a match earlier on tonight. And now it comes down to Andy Boy Simmonz and Leroy Kincaid. Leroy Kincaid, perhaps the biggest threat to Martin Stone's IPW UK title, and Andy Boy Simmonz, perhaps the biggest jerk in IPW. He gets taken down with a big shoulder block. And there's a second, Kincaid all over Andy Boy Simmonz. Kincaid sends Simmonz into the corner. Leroy Kincaid is a powerhouse, and where does he get all this energy from? As he hits him with a short arm clothesline, sends him off the ropes. Kincaid comes in house and still on. Simmonz ducks out. Andy Boy Simmonz has gone from #1 and he's gone the distance. 10 minutes short of an hour in the ring. Andy Boy Simmonz has defeated 29 other men, and he will receive a royal reward, a match of his choice.
Andy Boy Simmonz, congratulations, you won the Battle Royale. Your prize is any match of your choosing, Andy Boy. What match do you want here at IPW? I want to thank all my supporters here tonight. Especially this front row here. I'm playing my right, John. When the time is right, when it's important enough, I'll tell you what match I want. Thank you, everyone. You're wonderful. From the bottom of my arsehole.
Call it sarcasm, you can call it arrogance. Andy Boy Simmonz victorious!
Well, Andy Boy, as you said, the last thing of note you did here in IPW was win that over the top rope battle royal. Now I hope, and I'm sure a lot of fans and wrestlers do, that this is not the last thing of note we see you do here in IPW. Heck, you've still got a match of your choice.
Well, Rob, as I've already said to you once, I've done everything I've wanted to do in my career. I've listed them all already. I've done everything I want to do. I don't know whether there's anything left that I really feel I need to achieve and even want to achieve. I don't know whether I'm happy doing what I've done and just calling it a day.
Andy Boy Simmonz for me is someone who you can really look up to in the locker room. He's always been there for you to be able to go and get advice from. He always gives sound advice on what he's achieved. I think it's a big, big shame for him to be retiring at such a young age, because the future's only brighter. He can only get further. And Andy, I'm really sorry to hear about it, mate, but all the best.
Right, I didn't know Andy Boy, but I'd just like to say it's a bloody shame what happened to him. When someone in this profession has an injury and has to retire, it's the worst thing that could happen. So I don't wish that on anyone, and I hope he gets well soon. That's it, really.
I only met you a few times, Andy, but I've had loads of laughs with you. It's a real shame what happened about your injury and stuff, but I hope you don't retire, because I'd like to see you a few more times and have a few more laughs, because you're a top fuck. So yeah, don't retire.
So Andy Boy, what are you saying?
Well, Rob, I think I'm calling it a career.
Wow. Well, Andy Boy, is there any last messages you want to leave to the fans, or?
Just thanking them really, for, if they like me, they like me. If they didn't, they didn't. But I'm more worried about all the guys I'm going to be leaving behind in the locker room. There were some good times and good fun, so I enjoyed it. I'd rather, thank them than anyone else.
So what's next for Andy Boy Simmonz?
Well, Rob, I've been trying to keep my options open, really. One thing I want to do is give back to the wrestling community. I want to open up my gym with weights and stuff and have wrestling facilities there, my own ring. I spoke to some of the guys on the circuit about coming down and doing some training seminars. I'll be there every week. I would actually situate it where I first started in wrestling, down in Portsmouth, because that building has a lot of meaning to me. That's where I started and everything. And the rest of the academy that was there, the FWA one, that's moved down the road. So currently plans to have my own wrestling academy in Portsmouth and make it the #1 wrestling training centre in the south. That's the current plan. That's what I want to do.
Well, Andy Boy, if this is the last time we've seen you inside a British wrestling ring, I'd just like to say on behalf of all the wrestlers and all the fans, thank you for the memories.
No, Rob. Thank you. it's been a highlight. You know, just to be in that ring in front of that crowd, I've just loved every second of it.